Welcome to the Pearl L. Crawford Memorial Library Board of Trustees meeting Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. First, I'll read the disclosure for public meetings. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30, Section 20, and the Governor's executive orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Although a quorum of the members of the Library Board of Trustees will be physically present for this meeting, no in-person meeting attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The meeting will be live broadcast on Dudley Cable Access Television, Channel 192, and members of the public can also access the rebroadcast of the meeting online via YouTube. In the event of an unanticipated interruption in this broadcast, we will post on the town's website or an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Members of the public who wish to appear before the Crawford Library Board of Trustees must make an appointment to appear on an upcoming agenda by contacting the library director at pearl@cwmars.org or by calling the library at 508-949-8021. Placement on the agenda is not guaranteed. However, persons requesting to appear before the Library Board of Trustees should not attend a meeting in person unless and until the appointment has been confirmed by the Board of Trustees. Persons with matters appearing on a meeting agenda may request that they attend via a virtual means, such as a conference call rather than in-person attendance, and such requests should be directed to no less than 3 business days in advance so that the appropriate arrangements can be made. However, persons or representatives with matters appearing on the meeting agenda who wish to be physically present at the meeting must observe the following requirements. In accordance with existing requirements imposed by the governor, meeting rooms will be limited in terms of the total number of people that may be physically present at the same time, including the board members and staff. Satellite rooms will be available for overflow, and the meeting will be broadcast in real time in those satellite rooms. Persons who wish to participate in any particular matter on the meeting agenda will be asked to wait in the satellite room until that agenda item is reached, at which point attendees will rotate between the main meeting room and satellite rooms as appropriate. Social distancing must be maintained in both the main meeting room and in the satellite rooms. Face masks or coverings will be required in accordance with Governor Baker's May 1st, 2020 COVID-19 order number 31. A copy of that order can be found at www.mass.gov. Failure to comply with these requirements may lead to an attendee's removal from the meeting. Okay. So I guess we'll call the meeting to order August 25th at 6:19. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The first thing on the agenda is the review of the July 28th, 2020 meeting minutes, which everyone was sent. If anyone has any corrections or changes?
Make a motion to accept them as they were presented to us by email.
Second. Okay, it's been motioned and accepted. So then we move on to the director's report.
So going in order down the agenda, programs, we are obviously canceling any in-person programs for the foreseeable future. Lita and I are working our way through October right now, contacting each person individually. Most of them, of course, they kind of expected that was coming. We've talked to some of them about the possibility of virtual programs to try to see how we can make that work. Some of them, unfortunately, are just as expensive for virtual programs as they are for in-person, and we're not sure the attendance will be there, so we're kind of exploring our options right now. And several of them have said to reach out to them when we are able to do programs, that they really do want to come. And so hopefully next year we'll just be able to call them all up and go, do you want your slot back? Lita is reaching out to Deb Hudgens, who does our Sing and Swing, to the Friends. We talked to them yesterday, and they are willing to continue to pay for that. So we're talking, Lita is going to reach out to her about doing virtual versions. She did a few kind of condensed versions for us as part of summer reading, and they were quite popular. So we are going to see if that is something that she was willing to continue to do. And then I've talked to a couple of like our Pearl Jam folks to see if they do virtual concerts, if they're willing to do a recording, that kind of thing. So for the fall, we're still kind of up in the air right now. But we had deliberately set August as, you know, summer reading ended the end of July, and we kind of set August as being our break in programming, although we are still doing our live story time, obviously. Tomorrow's theme will be potatoes, in case you wondered. Not really sure that's
Do a
the
lot with
theme.
potatoes.
We got a couple of brand new kids books in that have potatoes, so that is our theme. But you know, our virtual programs, obviously, they're hard for some people who may not be as tech savvy, or people who may not have, you know, the ability to stream those. But they do seem to be quite popular. We've had story times with 700 views, which is bizarre. And we're really glad. I mean, much as we love our patrons, we're glad there were not 700 people in person, because that would be really crowded. But anyhow, so we're working, and as I said, we deliberately set August as kind of our month to figure out what's going on in the future. So we'll hopefully have a plan for programming for the rest of the year going forward in another couple of weeks. Budget, you all received, I think, the fiscal year 2020 summary, so that is the year that ended June 30th. And you will see that we were actually in good shape. We came in 9% under. We did have a significant overage in utilities, which we knew was happening, so that ate a chunk of our budget, but we're in good shape as far as, you know, the budget that closed out. You know, and managed to keep our materials expenditure in good shape, which is good. The state has said that, you know, normally we have a requirement for what percentage of our budget we spend on materials. They've said that will adjust slightly for the past year, but they appreciate the libraries that we're able to make an effort to spend as much of that as possible. So we're in very good shape. You know, that we can say that we spent 80% of our budget last year on materials as required by the state. So, but yeah, so that's the last year. And then for the current year, fiscal year 21, yeah, obviously this budget is $65,000 less than our budget last year. So it's going to go a little bit faster because there's less of it to spend. The big item that has come out already is the CW Mars appropriation, which of course that's always due at the beginning of the year. We know that's coming. That's a big ticket item. But other than that, we're in really good shape. You know, we've paid our our maintenance contracts that are always due at the beginning of the year and so on. And some of those came in slightly lower than I expected, which is good. I like it when that happens. But yeah, so we are in good shape financially. And be prepared that, well, as you saw with the last list of invoices, all of those items that are coming in now, so that materials line item is going to drop as we keep spending. But, you know, obviously we're not buying from some of the special publishers that we sometimes do. We're focusing on like the bestsellers and the kind of core collection right now, so we should still be just fine. And then facility, I was going to say we have nothing to report, and then...
If I can make a comment on the budget, the 2020 budget, the balance remaining, that's $29,805.77. That goes back to the town.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep. It does not carry over. That goes back in to the general fund, so that
And also, something I'd asked you before the meeting started, with the current budget, at this stage, there would be no way that we could go full-time.
No, so the way that the budget works as set by the town for fiscal year '21 is that our part-timers have all been limited to half of their usual hours. And as you guys know, we have trouble keeping the doors open anyway with our staff. We are tight in staff, and now we've got half of those hours. So there is just no way.
Yeah, I know sometimes people will see that there's a lot of aides there, but they are part-time.
They are all
And now they're
part-time.
working half their hours.
Yes, so, most of them are now, in fact, all but one is now working less than 10 hours a week, so that to get all of the cataloging done and all of the processing done and everything else, that, there's just no way that we could open. We're gonna do curbside pickup, and unfortunately, those hours have to be limited as well, because that's actually more time-intensive for staff. Instead of patrons bringing us their items, we have to go get the items and then take them out, so,
Talked to the other libraries locally
yes.
and asked curbside pickup, like, how busy are they? Like, how many
It
people are
varies.
really taking up on this?
It varies a great deal. Webster had days that they were very busy and then days that weren't. Charlton was slammed. Sturbridge actually had to designate parking spaces because they have a sort of very narrow parking area that they share with
Yeah.
another business, and people were filling all of the spaces, and so they kind of had to designate. So it seems to vary. Our
I
patrons.
didn't know how much there would be because most people like to come in and
Yeah, no, our
fondle
patrons,
there, what they wanna
our patrons are
get.
very excited about it. The word is getting out. We got 7 or 8 phone calls just this afternoon saying, I hear you're starting,
Exactly. Well, I think people have been hearing about it from other libraries, so they were just anticipating. And judging
Yeah.
from the calls and the emails that I got from people waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, so it's we are going to be doing, it's about the same number of hours that most other libraries around us have done, which is again because it's labor intensive for the staff and because we only have people for half of their usual part-time
Yep.
slots.
And your hours are kind of the opposite hours of some of the other
Yes,
libraries.
we have tried very hard to, I looked at the calendar of when the libraries around us were open and tried to cover times that they weren't, which is one reason also we went, again, the state requires that we provide services during evening hours after 5 o'clock, so that's one reason that not only are other libraries not doing curbside pickup during those times, but that way we can say we made an effort to meet that mandate by being open on Thursday evening for curbside pickup.
I think another point of confusion with people who aren't aware of the way things go in our budget is, and I based this on a couple of meetings ago for the Board of Selectmen. There seemed to be some contention about why the library should have funding, be it one of the top 6 priority. It's the sixth one. And, excuse me, I have trouble talking with this. I feel like I'm going to swallow. Anyway, because the library is closed, we're not busy. We're not running programs or anything like that. But our program line is only $200 in our budget. So money isn't being spent on programs, and a lot of people think that it is. We get funding from the Friends of the Library, from the Hugh and Harriet Crawford Endowment, from the Dudley Cultural Council.
We receive
Yeah,
grants, yeah.
Exactly. So I noticed here from our 2020 budget, the program line was budgeted at $200, and the balance remaining is $200. So for everything we did over the course of the year, we didn't use any money from that budget, so any of our $200.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is that for some of the programs that we do, $200 would not
Yeah,
cover
exactly.
much of that, to bring in some of the people that we do and some of the performers we do. But yes, we do not utilize town funding for programming. That all comes from outside sources.
On the 2020 budget, with the $29,000 that remained,
Yes.
2 questions. Why didn't we spend more on materials that you already say we're going to be cutting back on? Why didn't we stockpile
So
stuff?
materials, there's no point in ordering the materials and having them sent when they were just gonna sit.
Yeah, the staff was,
There was no staff
Right.
from March to,
But a box can sit
It's
versus
actually-
not being able to buy it this fiscal year.
True.
we actually, part of it is space. If you had seen how many boxes came in the other day, we would have lost a lot of space to do things, if we had boxes just sitting there. And then after about, partway through April, the Baker and Taylor warehouse shut down. So we couldn't have gotten them anyway, for that space of time. They only just started shipping again at the end of June. And you know, a lot of the children's materials in particular come from individual vendors, not Baker and Taylor, who's our biggest supplier. And a lot of that is sitting down with the representative, looking through, you actually look at the items. And obviously we weren't doing that. You know, and part of it is it fiscally responsible to spend all this money when stuff is just gonna sit? And we did have the money coming in the budget next year, so we made the decision that it didn't make sense to buy things that we didn't necessarily need. You know, let's go to Baker and Taylor and buy a whole bunch of stuff as opposed to sitting down with some of the specialty vendors. And as I said, the state has said that they are, and they announced this several months ago, that they were planning to adjust. So essentially, they're going to look at your materials expenditure as of, I believe it's February 1st. So the spending requirement was waived slightly. And then you also have to remember that we had an order from the town administrator that we not purchase anything that was not essential. And books are not exactly, it's not like the power bill. So, you know, kind of a combination of factors.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I assume curbside versus opening, I just know Webster's been open for a while. Curbside versus opening is coming from above us.
Yes, the decision of the Board of Health here in Dudley and so on was that, and first of all, we simply don't have the people right now to be open in person. There's just not enough. I mean, to be open in person, we'd have to be like 10 hours a week. Because when people come into the building, the disinfection protocols that come from the Board of Health and the state step up, which would mean that, you know, we would be spending all of our time disinfecting stuff. If you go to Webster, there's somebody roaming around disinfecting everything, which takes another staff member. That's another person to do that the entire time you're open. So the decision of the Board of Health and the town was that we were going to start with curbside pickup. And at some point, hopefully, if funding to the town comes back and we're able to open for in-person, then they will let me know when we're able to do that.
Yeah, so it's as much budgetary as it is,
Yep,
yeah. Just, I mean, the townspeople need to know that.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's not that we don't want to open up, we want to open
No,
up.
it is very quiet in that building. It's been really nice for Lita and I the past week and a half, having other people, even if it's only a couple of days a week, having other people in the building. We're like, oh, this is, you know, there's voices and there's other stuff happening. Because it's been so quiet, and it's hard for us, and I know for the other staff as well, that, you know, part of so much of what we do is people-based, and to not have people in the building and not be providing programs and so on, and not having that in-person feedback when we do story time, for example, is really hard for us.
So I just want to go kind of back a little bit. You said you spoke with the Friends of the Library.
Yes.
And I guess my question is they do such wonderful things with finances to help programming and all the things that we can't do. And now this year, they probably won't be having a book sale.
Yes.
was
So
there
they
any
have
conversation?
gotten, yeah, I mean, there's no way they can do a book sale. It's simply
Right.
not going to happen this year.
I didn't know if there was something else that they had maybe
Well, the
thought
one
of.
thing that we have done is we have been making, since March, the Friends have made a book cart of free books available outside, and we do have a donation jar out there, and there have been some very generous folks. So it's not nearly what a book sale would bring in, but it's something. But yeah, essentially they're going to plan on having no income for a while, and they'll just be, you know, they're lucky enough to have a little bit in the bank account.
Right.
And they've basically said that, you know, while they can support us, they will, and at a certain point, they're gonna have to say, you know,
I know,
that's
it's just
it,
been
no
such a
more.
wonderful resource for the library, and
Right.
that's all I thought of was like, wow, they're not gonna be able to have that, and that's a big,
Yeah, and they
That's a
were,
big chunk
they
of
were
fundraiser for
planning
them.
in December, they were planning another baubles and bling
Yeah,
sale, the
yeah.
jewelry sale that did so well last year and people
Yeah.
enjoyed so much, and obviously that's off the table, so.
Mm.
Yeah, so, right now, it's that cart outside the door, and I restock it every few days to make sure that it's got a variety of stuff. And as I said, some people have been very generous with leaving things in the jar, but that's unfortunately the reality, and it's not just our friends group, it's all of them that
oh, yeah.
have had to sort of adjust.
All right, so any questions about programming, budget, or facility from anybody?
I started to say that I was going to say that I had nothing to report for facility, and then this afternoon, Lita and I are busily sticking stickers on books, and we started hearing a beeping, and it took us a while to narrow it down. And one of the emergency lights, long story short, Dennis came down, and one of our emergency lights back in the storage room, one of the electrical components that connects the light part and the battery part to the alarm part has gone kerflooey. So basically now we either have the emergency lights in the reading area on, which are those little spotlights up in the ceiling, or we have an obnoxious beeping until it can be fixed. So I have a call in to Neil Piasta, who is.
That beeps throughout the whole building or just
Oh,
back
yes,
in that room?
oh, no,
Hear
you
it?
can hear it through the whole building. We thought we were going to go insane with the beeping. And I mean, we tried closing doors,
Yeah.
and oh no, it carries. So right now, there are spotlights over the reference desk and in the workroom that are on, but those, I mean, they're those little tiny, very dim emergency lights.
Yeah.
Until it can be fixed, we decided that was better than the beeping. So I have a call into the electrician, and Dennis's comment was he didn't think it was it's beyond him, because it's an
Not
electrical
it's not
thing,
major.
but it's not it shouldn't be a huge expense, so.
Fingers crossed.
I did tell him it was all his fault because we had just replaced the batteries in all of those lights, and he had done it, and so I said I was blaming him, but yeah, so that is our only facility thing. I mean, other than that, George is back cleaning, which makes Lita and I really happy because we don't have to take the garbage out anymore. But, honestly, the biggest thing right now in terms of needing even cleaning is the piles and piles of empty boxes and so on from book processing that are piling up. But not
I
a
guess
lot
it
of,
could be worse. That's really
not
kind
a
of
lot of wear and tear on a building when there's
Right,
nobody in
exactly.
it, so.
pretty
We
good.
did a major disinfecting too, so.
Yeah,
Get that
I
done,
mean,
so-
and Lita and I had done it, and now George is kind of he's getting himself back into the swing of things where he focuses on certain areas, and we have protocols we have to follow to disinfect between users of workstations, so that's helping kind of.
And do you leave the book sitting for a couple of days?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's part of the protocol.
Protocol.
So, and because we have no volunteers, our usual 18 lovely volunteers who come in weekly are obviously not in the building and will not be for some time. So Lita and I are now doing all the shelving, which sometimes takes us a couple of days to get to. So in practice, it's an extra long quarantine. So we do check everything in, and then stuff sits. And if need be, if there was a really popular book that came in and someone said, I want it right away, we can disinfect the cover, but it's best not to expose the covers to that chemical more than we have to. So yes, there's a quarantine cart, and we have disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer at every workstation, and if you answer the phone and put it down, you have to wipe everything off. And
So I have a question in regards to volunteers. So what is the protocol to having volunteers?
no unnecessary personnel in the building. No unnecessary personnel at all. And to be honest, most of our volunteers are in a very high-risk group.
Right.
Most of our volunteers are senior citizens.
Okay.
So it probably would not be advisable anyway. I mean, I wouldn't want to put them at risk.
No, I mean, there's just a limited number of people. I didn't know, like, if
But
you were
yeah,
to
no,
say
and-
one volunteer or two volunteers, how much it would help.
Yeah, no, not, I mean, as I said, we have 18 in any given week who are almost any time you come into the library, there's a volunteer working. So Lita and I are basically, we have the pull list down to a science now. We're getting really good at getting that done. And what we've taken to doing is, if I'm at my desk working for a while, I'll work for a certain amount of time and then go shelve a few things to kind of get a few steps in and move around. And then I go back to what I was doing, then I shelve some things. And so, we're keeping up with it, but it takes a bit longer to get everything back than it does when we have, eager beavers there first thing in the morning. Let me put stuff back.
Is that the Board of Health that decides that? The Dudley Board of Health, is it the Governor of Baker's?
It's partially the governor, and it's also partially the guidelines we're receiving from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners is that we should not be bringing anybody unnecessary. It's like when we open eventually, knock on wood, when we open to the public, limited number of people in the building at any time. We can't just fling the doors open and have everybody come in, and limited time that non-staff members can spend in the building, which, if a volunteer comes in and they can only be there for half an hour anyway, really, it's not particular. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's the guideline.
I was
that
just trying to think of help. That's all.
Yeah,
So
no,
help you
we're-
guys get all back,
Like I
it'd be
said,
nice.
we're keeping up, although this week with all of the new books that are just about ready to go on the shelves is gonna be a scramble, but we're keeping up.
But there's no patrons in the building
No,
right now,
there's
and you don't
no-
have to help them, so that's an added.
Exactly.
That helps.
And, I'm still doing, like today, I spent 3 hours in a meeting for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and,
Yeah. The staff.
then
seems-
as soon as I was done, it was like, okay, let me go shelve some things. I've been sitting here staring at a screen for a while, so.
Staff seems very happy to be back.
They are very happy to be back.
And the
yes.
one comment I overheard was, getting a lot more done because I'm not interrupted.
Yes. Yeah,
And I
although
was like, that's true.
It was funny the first couple of days. Now, they're only in the building 3 days, and they're kind of in staggered shifts, so it's no more than 3 or 4 at a time to keep, numbers low.
Yep.
And I think it was the second day back, and it was, all right, here's this stack, let's start cataloging, and people walk up to and it's been so long since any of us have done this, they walk up to the book and go, wait, I forgot what, it took a minute to remember what the different jobs were. But yeah, it's good to have everybody back, and everybody seems very glad to
Yeah.
be back.
They seem very happy to be back. All right, so if there's no more with director's report, we've kind of already talked about 4. The reopening of the library, we may have touched on all of that already. I'm not sure if there's anything else to add.
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes kind of disinfecting protocols and like the quarantine, that stuff gets checked in and then it gets routed. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that, patrons will never see. But we're all kind of adjusting to, every once in a while someone starts to just put something on a book cart and goes, oh, and you have to take it over to quarantine. But everybody's kind of getting into the swing of things and getting used to having sort of separate workstations, because we all tend to just sort of, let me grab the phone
Share,
because you're busy,
right.
and now we have to get out of that mindset, so. But thanks to CW Mars, they had set up one of the computers in the workroom so that you can catalog from that one. So that gives us an extra workstation for catalogers, which is good.
That's not new, though. You've had that.
We've had it as a training computer. It
Right.
was set up as a
But it
training
has that
computer, but it now
capability.
has the permissions,
Yep.
because different logins have different permissions, and it now has the permissions to do all the cataloging and everything, so that's good that we have
Yeah.
another dedicated workstation.
Yeah, they were busy. They were buzzing around when I
Oh, yes.
stopped. Where they were. All right, so the next is emergency contact lists for building, fire, and alarm systems. So I think in the past, Pat, you have been on that list, and I think Ben has been on that list.
All of them, at least since I've been there, the first person called is me, second is Lita, and third is the board chair.
Right,
And so that's how it's currently set, so Joyce is currently third on the list.
fine.
I will tell you, if it says zone 63 faults, it's the dripping from the air conditioner.
Because I had gotten a call about a week or so ago.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
and
say.
I've now gotten confirmation from all of them that they have updated and supposedly taken you off and put Joyce on and, you know, done all of that.
Yeah. So what do they call, your home phone or your cell?
They call my cell phone. It's whatever number you give
Whatever
them.
you
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you give them?
Yeah.
I'll have to go double check, honestly, I can't
I
remember.
need to give you a password too.
But
Yeah,
they usually call me, and, you know, to be honest, like, I think the last time they called, I was out with the dogs. I don't have my phone in my hand, you know, it's inside, but
Yep.
most of the time, either Lita or I will catch it.
There are just opportunities that, you know, I think
Texted
you're
the last
45
couple
minutes
of
away,
times.
40 minutes
Yes,
away.
they do usually text, and there's a thing in the text message, if you tap the link, that you can tell them whether to send the police or not. And so at least once I've gotten the text and it says Zone 63 fault, and I go, here we go again.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll text, and then if they don't get a response to any texts, they do call, they then call starting first, second, third on the list.
The good thing to do is to get the phone numbers so that you can put them into your contact list.
Yes.
Because if you.
Oh,
if-
except that the security, not the, because we have two alarm companies, we have the
Yes.
fire company and the security
Yes,
company, and the
right.
security company calls from a different number every time. They essentially have an automated call center, and so it's a set of 800 numbers, and you never know.
Like a robocall if
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah,
have them listening.
The message.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fire one is usually a local number because they're based out of this area, but, the office that we deal with is from this area, but the security company, I'm just like, who is calling me from wherever the number shows up as being from, you know, Iowa or something, and it turns out it's a security company.
Okay. And then as far as access to the library, you have a key, Pat?
Yes. You should have
Ben,
a
do you
key.
have a key? So I would just like to have a key so that
Yeah, so
there's-
I think the past practice has been for the past year, so Pat would hand her key over
Sure.
to you.
Okay, so,
Actually, I have more keys than I know what to do with, so. I'm gonna have to go over to the library.
And figure out which one it is. I
I'll
can actually,
definitely do that when you're there.
I
so
can actually probably tell you just by looking at
Okay,
them,
all right.
because
you can do that to me.
they're fairly distinctive. But yes, so, and Ben has kept one because he's so close,
okay.
that way there's a, you know, and if there's an emergency, it's gonna take me an hour to get here.
Exactly.
So having multiple people local that have a
Yep.
key is helpful.
Yep, that's fine. The MLA landscape project. You heard back a response from them last time we spoke? You
Except
had not
that, you know,
heard.
they understood that we were putting the project on hold and to let them know when we were ready to proceed. That's where we were last time, and that's where we remain.
Okay, any questions from anyone?
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they basically said, you know, they were sorry but that they understood, and to let them know when we were ready to sign the contract and move forward.
Did they send you anything in writing?
I have an email from her,
Okay.
but, I mean, no, they are ready to go whenever we are ready to sign the contract and move forward.
Yep.
I know.
All right. So the next part is board members' comments and/or observations. Pat?
Absolutely thrilled that all our staff is back. I have to say that, and that we're going to start curbside. That was best news I've heard in a long time, so.
Yeah, everybody needs to be patient with us the first week or so as we work the kinks out of curbside, but we think we got it down, so.
Yeah. No, I'm happy that's exactly it. I thank you and Lita for holding down the fort this whole time, and staff seems very happy to be back and fired up, and I am really happy that next week things start to progress in the right direction. Anybody else? No? So the next board meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 22nd at 6:15. Here, face to face. And
Mask.
wear your mask. And if there's no other comments, questions, or anything, we can,
Motion to adjourn.
there we go. There we go. Okay. So we are all set.